on impact, I split the top of my head about 2.5 inches, and the pressure of my head being pushed down into my back shattered my sixth vertebrae. Um, and the bone fragments began pushing into the spinal cord as it was swelling, and then when they pulled me out, it stretched the spinal cord nearly to the point of snapping. My name is Jack Tyler Rollins, and I'm 23 years old, and I graduated high school from my hometown of Bearden, Arkansas. I continued my education at Arkansas Tech, and right now I'm doing an internship for the City Parks Department of Reno, Nevada, and I'm also playing wheelchair rugby with the High Fives rugby team. I've traveled to Sacramento, Salt Lake City. I'm going to San Diego to play in tournaments, so wheelchair rugby has been a fantastic outlet for me. And once I'm done with my internship, I'll go back to Tech and I'll graduate. In high school, I enlisted into the Arkansas National Guard in 2011. I went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and came back and completed my senior year. And then I became a student at Arkansas Tech and continued education there. Leading into my senior year is when I had my accident. I was training off duty with my sniper team, and we were doing a Tough Mudder, which is an obstacle race. Our event was 10.5 miles, and 9.5 miles into the race, we come to this event called the Swamp Stomp. And the Swamp Stomp was just a pond that you wade through, and there wasn't much to it, but that didn't seem to be enough for me. And one of my soldiers that was there with us, he come running up beside me, and he jumped into the pond head first, and he come up, and he was fine. So I did what I had been doing all day, and I did a slip and slide motion into the pond, and not knowing there was a giant piece of concrete under the water, I hit my head, and it did knock me out, and I knew things were bad, and I knew I had to get out of the water. So I tried to do a push-up, and I couldn't get my body to move. What the heck? So I tried to roll over, and I couldn't. And about that time, my team came in and scooped me up out of the water, and because they thought I was going to drown, they just pulled me up quickly, not supporting my head and neck, which caused a lot more damage. But on impact, I split the top of my head about 2.5 inches, and the pressure of my head being pushed down into my back shattered my sixth vertebrae. And the bone fragments began pushing into the spinal cord as it was swelling, and then when they pulled me out, it stretched the spinal cord nearly to the point of snapping, which started the paralysis immediately from the chest down, and my right forearm was completely impaired, and both hands were completely lame. So I got on a med flight to Tulsa. I had my surgery done, and I came out of surgery and started what I call the Terrible 10, which is the 10 days I spent in intensive care where my body just was shut down because it was paralyzed, and my belly became distended to about 4 or 5 times its normal size, which put pressure on my lungs, and I wasn't able to breathe normally on my own, so they had to put an oxygen mask on me. Well, because of the medicine and being in and out of consciousness and having this mask on my face, it caused me to panic, and because I panicked, they gave me Ativan, which then gave me an allergic reaction, and I had psychotic episodes, vivid images that I can still remember. And then once I finally got through the Terrible 10, we made our way to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, which is right outside of Denver. And I spent 3 months taking on every challenge that that I could find, pushing my limits every day to reach my goal of being independent again, or as nearly so as possible. I just worked and I worked and I worked every day, even to the point of like tearing up the muscles that I still have. I had to do extensive dry needle therapy to try to relax some of the muscles that were just being damaged from being overused. But I wouldn't let it stop me because I had things to do and I had a life to get back to. At the end of 2.5 months doing intense therapy at Gregg Hospital, I made my way back to tech, and I didn't miss a semester. That just brings up the fantastic friends that I've got. I mean, I almost would say that calling them friends is an understatement. They really helped take care of me, even some extremely personal things. They were there for me. When I got back, I started dealing more with anger and depression and all of these things just because now I could see my friends playing ultimate frisbee and I can't. Now these guys are going hiking and I can't go. There's all these things that are going on around me that I can no longer participate in. So anger and depression set in pretty good. I never questioned that God had a plan for me. I just was angry that I didn't know what his plan was, and I didn't know why he would do this to me. And I just struggled with that for so long, being angry with God. And then finally somebody told me the story of Job. When Job asked God why, God responded with, well, who are you to ask me why? And that was a very humbling experience, which put it in perspective. Once I stopped asking God why, I started getting the answers. In a lot of ways, I'm thankful for my accident. In some ways, I wouldn't have it the other way. I wouldn't be able-bodied if I could choose.